Hi everybody. Although you have the answer key to the questions for Articulation Seminar for Greenbound chapters 1 to 3, I'm going to see if I can talk you through some of these here so it gets you started off. So as you do these, you have to try to think in this kind of Tarzan frame of mind where you take away the non-essential elements. So if we begin with 1, last week Mike was showing us how to prepare dinner. Then the essential information, Tarzan-like, is somebody was showing us something. Last week this tells you when. Adverbials also always answer when, where, how, why. So that's an adverbial there. So you have the subject, Mike, the predicate, was showing, the indirect object, us, and something. And the something is how to prepare dinner. And remember, in this first exam quiz, you'll be identifying the clausal functions, the finite verb, the head of the subject, and also these communicative patterns. So in this case, in the verb phrase, you have was is the finite verb. If we now move on to number 2 then, and this is a similar kind of pattern, I believe, because it's the chef told us to buy the on sale items. So what's the essential information here? And it's chef told us something. So you have the subject, the predicator, the direct object, and all of this here, is the direct object, and us is the indirect object. Now you can only have an indirect object if there is a direct object. So in numbers 1 and 2, the verbs are of such that they require 2 objects. And in this case, the head of the noun phrase is chef there. So moving on to number 3. We bought him peaches, apricots, and bananas. And the way to consider doing these is that try to group together words into a something or a somebody. So here it's we bought him something. Subject we, predicator him something. This also has the same format as the other two. We have a subject, we, the predicator, bought, him, and something. That's peaches, apricots, and bananas. Number 4 is a pattern where you have somebody, has showed, somebody, something. So remember, in all of these you're identifying clausal functions, and they are subject, predicator, the direct object, indirect object, object complement, subject complement, adverbial and adverbial complement. It can only be any of those things. You cannot have, at the level of clausal function, you can't have adjectives or verbs. These are parts of the other larger clausal functions. And in this case, what's the head of the subject, the strange chef? And the head is chef. Has showed. This is the predicator, and has is the finite verb. As something, and the something, because of the way the something is, it's difficult to identify the head just in that particular one. At least at this stage of the course. We'll learn how to look at that in more detail later. If we now move on to number 5, and number 5 has another kind of pattern. So what's the subject here? You have to find the finite verb, and do you remember one good way of finding the finite verb was doing the eller-hur test? So in the case of Jane and all of this, you have to take out the non-essential elements and do the eller-hur test. So you have somebody will put the fruit somewhere. So you have somebody will put something somewhere. So if we move back to the subject, what's the head of the subject? It's Jane. The who loves the dessert, this tells you more about Jane. And this is the B-Satz. We'll be looking at that later in the course. Just now we're only looking at the clausal function. So the whole of this is the subject and Jane is the head of that subject. And if we go to the predicator, and it's will put, will is the head, sorry, is the finite verb in that predicator. The fruit, that's the head of the direct object. Now can you stop there? Can you say Jane will put the fruit? No, the listener will be expecting you to continue. So this through a food mixer, although it's an adverbial, you must have that adverbial, and because you must have it, it makes it an adverbial complement. Moving to number 6 then they could have put the fruit in a large pot. So what is the essential information here? It's they put the fruit somewhere, and in this case you have what? You have, where is the finite verb, and all of this here is the predicator. The finite verb, how can you check this out? Then they could have put the fruit in a large pot. Couldn't they? In the eller-hur test, the eller-hur picks up the could. So could is the finite verb, and that's a finite verb in the predicator. And have and put are two non-finite verbs. They here is the subject. Then that tells you when, that's an adverbial, and because it's non-essential you could choose to leave it out and the sentence will still make sense. It makes it an adverbial. They could have put the fruit. Once again, you can't stop there. So in a large pot, all of this here, this is an adverbial complement because you must have it. Is it in a large pot or in a large bowl? In a large pot. Now number 7, you have he must have told, that's the predicator, me something, and it's a pattern similar to numbers 1 and 2, where me is the direct object, sorry, me is the indirect object, and to add a spoon of honey is the direct object. Let's look at number 8. He could have been heating the mixture. Subject. All of this is the predicator. So he heating the mixture. That's the essential message. Could is the finite verb. And in this case, he could have been heating something. In this case, this is the object. If there's only one object, then it's always a direct object. If you won't just call it an object, but it's a direct object when there's only one. And mixture is the head of that direct object. So the pattern here, this is the pattern subject, predicator, and object. pattern here was subject, predicator, in direct object and direct object. That was there. The pattern in number 6 was subject. There's an adverbial there, but it's an optional one. This pattern is subject, predicator, object, and then we have adverbial complement. And that's the same pattern in number 5 too, just here. And numbers 1 through 4, they were all, so all of these here, the first 4, they were subject, predicate, that's indirect object and then direct object. And if we do 2 more before stopping here, number 9, you have somebody stirred something, and conceivably you can stop there. So you have the subject, the children did something. So in the subject you have the children, which is the head, stirred, this is the predicator, there's only one verb, so that finite verb is also the lexical verb is the finite verb there. The mixture is the object and mixture is the head, and until it was boiled this answers when, so that is an adverbial. You could conceivably stop. You can still make grammatical sense, meaning sense, by saying the children stirred the mixture. Therefore until it was boiled is extra information, so that makes this an adverbial. In 10 we have what's the essential information. Number 10 is a different kind of pattern. The essential information is children happy, because all of this here, to do the cooking, this is an adverbial. You can grammatically stop at the children were happy, so therefore this last part is an optional adverbial. And then we have to analyze the children were happy. So this is a subject. Now, were happy. Is happy a verb or is it something else? Now every time you have a verb which is one of these linking verbs or copular verbs, this is a form of the verb to be, and all the words which are described as senses, like feels, looks, appears, smells, these are all linking verbs. And in this case, what's on the other side of the linking verb is an adjective, and it describes the subject. So happy is a subject complement, and we have the pattern subject, predicator, subject, complement, and children is the head of the subject. So this is a pattern where you have a linking verb. Okay, I'll be stopping there. Good luck with the rest of the exercises.